that the African National Congress serves at the mercy of the PA and EFF in the Johannesburg Metro. On its own, it doesn't have power to retain the capacities to retain power anywhere. However, it can gain political mileage by showing certain communities, as an example, the Islamic communities of the Western Cape and elsewhere, that they did take action to try and reprimand the PA at this time.
So just on that base, we have seen, of course, the collapse of coalitions and the detriment and how negatively they've affected service delivery, particularly at metros. Should the ANC carry out its threats, how likely is that to play out? Are we, for instance, going to see another mayor? What is likely to happen?
If they were to... Okay, let's then try to talk from a citizen's point of view. You wouldn't want the ANC to launch this initiative before securing the next coalition, so that the transition is smooth. Because as you correctly point out, they would then collapse the executive mayorship, the mayoral committee, and then we're back to square one of having to find a new mayor and recompose the executive. I don't think the residents of Johannesburg are looking for that at all. I think that's a very reckless move if the ANC were to attempt anything like that.
And when we look at, just some of the utterances that have been made and attributed to the ANC when they want to review the alliance with the PA as well as the EFF, and one of the reasons, of course, was to remove the DA, out of power, particularly at local government. How likely then is this going to affect particularly the ANC?
Remember that the ANC, when you say the ANC said this, the ANC said that, it's actually a very difficult thing to assess, in the sense that within the same ANC, if I were to give examples, you have the likes of Panyaza Lesufi, who are clear that the ANC needs to work on the basis of coalitions. There is no longer an ANC majority, certainly in Gauteng. Then you have the likes of Snuki Zikalala and the ANC veterans who say, let's go and do an alliance with the DA. But as you can see with the Israeli situations, with the relations with the USA, there is total conflict between the ANC and the DA on those issues. And lastly, you have the likes of Nomvula Mukonyane and others who say, no, the ANC must regroup and go and win the elections outright. So the ANC is in a serious intellectual crisis as we speak today. So it is not as easy to assess accurately what the ANC is thinking, because it is in a perpetual state of confusion.
So, especially because we've just come out of voting registration, South Africans are, of course, looking forward, I would imagine, to next year's election. South Africa is also preparing itself for coalition governance. But it is, something that has been talked about, that, parties should align themselves with parties that are similar, particularly to their ideology, their policies. But we are seeing parties that have a hard line on certain issues that are coming together, and as a result of that, we have this dissolution of the executive, or we have some form of infighting, etc. How should we then, look forward and prepare ourselves for coalition governance in the future, because it is something that is a reality?
The first thing is that as South Africans, even you and I talking on this TV show, you have to respect that I have my own beliefs. I have to respect that you have your own beliefs. The idea that you are going to form alliances with people who are not in your own party, people who belong to another party, and that they are like-minded. If they were like-minded, they probably have joined your party, and probably they should be you, because within one party, in every single party, there are different factions. So the idea that people should be ideologically aligned and agree ideologically is actually an unpatriotic idea, because then it means South Africans must think the same. And that is exactly what we fought against when we wanted democracy. We wanted to be independent thinkers. The fights that have happened, and Gayton Mckenzie is probably the best person to explain these fights, because he says that these fights are about interest. For instance, the PA, we want these positions, we want this, not ideology. We don't want to discuss ideology, we want positions. Now, even the fight that the ANC is starting with the PA about municipalities, a question could be raised. What was in the initial agreement? What were the deliverables? Is Israel part of those agreements? Or are you wanting to bargain a new agreement or an additional item? And what are you bringing to the table to get us to agree to you? So it's a crazy idea. It's far-fetched to think that as South Africans, in order to agree and build this nation, we must all think the same. This thing of like-mindedness is a very dangerous idea.
And Mr. Swana, as we wrap our conversation, I think let's just focus a little bit on the PA. You know, they are going to be celebrating 10 years as a party. They were formed in November 2013. Gayton Mckenzie is expected then to, release the election manifesto points for the 2024 elections. Just talk to us about where you see the Patriotic Alliance cementing itself come 2024.
The Patriotic Alliance at this point in time has basically gained ground, and not only on the basis of the clear, undisputable failures of the African National Congress and the DA, but it actually tried to say to the colored community specifically that they are a neglected lot and they need their own representative. So that is where they are going to be playing their game. They are trying to say that they are spreading beyond that audience, but I would imagine more than 80, even above 90% of their vote will come from that community. Now, that makes sense of the statement by the ANC, because certainly in places such as the Western Cape, Eldorado Park, the ANC is going to be able to campaign and say, those people at your hour of need as Muslims, the PA was nowhere to be found. Instead, they probably, and this is a risky statement to make, they probably looked at the wealth of the Jewish community and what they can get from there, and not at the poor Muslims, and so on and so forth. It's going to be that type of game.
All right, Sandile, thank you so much for your analysis. I really do appreciate it. Sandile Swana is a political analyst as well as a governance expert.